I want to begin by acknowledging that we are on Ohlone land, and I want to talk about what is Techqueria. Um, well, first of all, who's here for the first time? Okay, wow, a lot of newbies. Well, welcome. Um, we are a community of Latinx people in the tech industry, Latinx professionals in the tech industry. Um, we are a very active community. We have very active Slack community with over 1,200 people active weekly, and we have 5 thriving chapters: New York, LA, of Bay Area, of course, Austin, and we are starting 5 new chapters. Yeah, so we're gonna have new chapters in Miami, Orlando, DC, Portland, and Atlanta. So if you have friends in those cities who want to become chapter directors or involved, applications are on our website. If you want to be involved in the Bay Area chapter and volunteer, just come find us, and also check out our website for opportunities. I also want to talk about the code of conduct. We have a code of conduct. I encourage everybody to read it and follow it. We want to make these events fun and friendly, but this is a professional community, and we should be acting professionally. If anybody has an issue with that or with a potential code of conduct violation, come find myself, come find Francis. And then other ways to be involved in the community. Join our Slack. I highly encourage that. That is the best way to connect with us. Follow us on Twitter and follow us on LinkedIn, or join the LinkedIn group. And then come to more events. We have comida meetups. So these are lunches or dinners that happen every once in a while. We have cafecitos. Those are coffee meetings. We have one tomorrow morning, actually, at Tierra Mia. And with that, hand it off.
All right, thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Fred Matthew, and I am a technical recruiter here at Asana. Asana, as you guys know, is a work management tool, and I really appreciate you guys being here. This is a really cool special event for us. I think my first Techqueria event I came to was at Twitter, and just to see the community thriving and being in the space and learning from each other was really eventful for me, and so it was just kind of cool to kind of start this partnership to bring people into the building so we can work with you guys. And the real cool thing about this actual event was that it was planned in Asana. A little bit of slack too. Not mad at her, but listen, and also I need to take a couple of minutes to give Francis a round of applause, because she was working on it, okay? She was working on it. I mean, and also Allie in the back right there was working really hard. Both of them were collaborating. My Asana was lighting up, my Slack was lighting up. I was like, all right, things are happening, So we appreciate you guys just joining us, coming into the building. Here at Asana, we are definitely growing. So if you guys are interested in looking for work, please contact us. I think that one of the biggest things that happens in tech that I realize is the fact that people think there's a barrier sometimes to recruiters, or a barrier to have these conversations. Sometimes you send a LinkedIn request and it doesn't happen, but most of the time people are going to accept it and try to reach out, because we do want to open those doors. So that is the biggest thing. So if you want to talk to anybody that actually is on the Asana team, we're here, we're in the building, we're open to conversation, we're open to at least leading you to the space, and if we can help, we will. Absolutely. However, how can we do that on a grand mass scale, right? Because we're in tech, because we always got to scale things, right? So here's what we're going to do. I need everyone to take out their phone real quick. Take out your phone. Yeah, this again. Everyone take out their phone and download Asana. No, I'm joking. I mean, you should, but anyways. So you're going to take out your phone, you're going to go on LinkedIn, and then you're going to hit the network button. And then after you hit the network button, you're going to hit the right corner. There's a little person. You're going to hit that plus. And then you're going to hit the find nearby right there and turn it on. I got you guys. So the My Network button at the bottom. right? So it says home, then my network. Then you click that, then to the right, then the find nearby. You turn that on. Boom. You want to make a connection with someone in the room? This is your ability to do that. Maybe your mentor is here. Maybe a recruiter that you want to speak to. This is kind of open up the total access to it so we can kind of continue to build that community, because I think that's what Techqueria does so well, is building a community that's authentic and real. And so again, speak to people here. Build that network up. Last but not least, if you have any questions, as you have your phones off, go to slido.com, hashtag Asana-Techqueria for any questions during the panel. All right? Well, thank you guys kindly, and I'd like to call up the panel now.
Hola. Hi, everyone. So first of all, I want to thank Asana for hosting us tonight. Sometimes it's difficult. And if you've been in this space, you know that it's very difficult to find spaces like this. So I appreciate that. I appreciate everybody who made this event possible. So thank you, Asana. Thank you, everybody who was involved. My name is Javier. I work for a company called Wonder School. I'm running engineering there. But tonight, we have an amazing panel who is going to share with us different experiences around mentorship, how it is to be a mentor, how it is to be a mentee. So their names are in the screen, but I'm going to let them introduce themselves one by one so they can tell us a little bit about their lives, how they got here, and what they have to share with us. So we start from this side. Alvaro.
Hi, everyone. I'm excited to be here, and thank you very much for having me on this panel. My name is Alvaro Morales, and I am an engineering manager here at Asana. I lead our notifications team that's responsible for all the different ways that users get to find out about updates to the tasks and projects that they're collaborating in. I have been an engineering manager for about 6 months, so I'm still pretty new to this management thing and sort of figuring out what that is and figuring out what the transition from being an individual contributor to manager is. So that's something that's like very present at work here. But I have been at Asana for about 3.5 years now. I was born and raised in Lima, Peru. That's where I went to elementary, middle school, and high school. And I think throwing it back all the way there, I think in middle school is where I got really interested in this technology thing. For some reason, sort of a memory that really pops to mind is, you know, I was in some form of IT class, and I was learning Visual Basic, which lets you drag and drop like little menu things. And I got really excited about the fact that I could make a program that looked like Windows with a menu and all that. So I think that was really the spark that kind of got me interested. Things fizzled out there, but I sort of got more interested in that when I was sort of making decisions for college, and I've been doing software ever since.
Hi, everyone. My name is Pamela, and again, thank you for having us here. Really excited to be here. I'm the CTO and co-founder of an app called Snowball Wealth, and this is something that helps people manage and pay off their student loans. It's a pretty new thing for me. I've been doing this for about 6 months. Before that, I was an engineering manager for an education startup, and I've been in the tech space for a few years now. I was born and raised in Mexico, so I'm from Juarez. And I moved to Texas as a kid, so, you know, immigrant strong. Yeah, and I've been in the Bay Area for a while. I studied computer science, and I fell in love with tech when I moved out here for school. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Emerson. I'm also from Peru, born and raised. Peru in the house. Woo! Hi, Chimpún. There you go. Right on. So I came here when I was 16. I went to San Francisco State and studied computer engineering there. Funny enough, the only job that I applied when I was a senior was Microsoft, and they said no, and I was like, screw you. And then I started my own startup afterwards, which was fun. So I did ed tech for, I don't know, like 7 years, 8 years, So that was really fun. And in the last year and a half, I've been at Apple. I'm an engineering manager at Apple Books. That's pretty much all I can say about that. And yeah, glad to be here.
Hi everyone, my name is Belen, I'm from Spain, and I'm a software engineer on the mobile iOS team at Groupon. I'm tech lead, and well, it all started because I studied computer science back in Spain because I like it. And when I finished, I also did a master's, a PhD too, and around 5 years ago, I moved here to the US thanks to like a talent program for engineers. So I came here, I worked for a startup, and then after a while, it was acquired by Groupon. So I've been here since then. I also wanted to mention that since this is related to mentorship, that I've had some managers that I could consider mentors, but now myself I've been a mentor for a couple of engineers, woman engineers in this case.
Thank you so much. And just because I need to read the room, now I want to know a little bit about yourselves, everybody in this room. So I want to raise your hand if you are currently a mentor of somebody else. And now I want to hear from the people who are looking for a mentor. Great. And finally, who is already in a mentorship program or as a mentee of somebody else. Okay, great. Well, I need to change my cards now. No, just joking. Okay, so let's start with a few definition questions then, because I think that is going to be where we are going to generate a little more of interest. Like, what is all this about mentorship? What is mentorship? So I'm going to, I want to know, in your case, Belen, how do you define mentorship besides the Wikipedia definition of it?
Well, the basic definition to me is that it's a relationship to encourage your professional career. But I also want to add to that to me it's important that both the mentor and the mentee they need to share their experiences. Like it's a two-way relationship. Like both of them can you really learn from that exchange. So you're there to share your experience and to learn from that. That's why I also think that they need to have some things in common, I'm not saying that they need to work like in the same technology or work for a similar type of company or team. What I mean is that they need to have some history in common, some path in common, so that way the mentee can have someone that really understands them, their situation, someone that in the past has had like the same situation and had the same questions.
Great. Alvaro, do you agree with that? What do you think has been your experience so far?
Totally agree with that definition. And just to add to it, I think kind of that defining characteristic of a mentorship relationship is very much learning and sharing of experiences. So I think we often see this as a mentor is someone who's more advanced in their career, and then they're mentoring someone who's more sort of junior to their role. But mentorship sort of takes many forms and shapes. And I also want to recognize that I've gotten a lot of value out of peer mentorship. So peers who might be sort of at the same position or title that I'm at, but their depth of experience or the kinds of things that they've gone through are really so valuable in hearing about ways that I could learn from them and sort of share my own experiences with them to get a sense of how I could be thinking about situations differently. So just to add to that is that mentorship takes sort of many forms and shapes.
Great. Pam, on top of that, how do you define the mentor? How do you identify a mentor? Who can be a mentor?
Yeah, I mean, I think first of all, I feel like most people can be a mentor in some form or capacity. I would say became like a formal mentor when I was in high school. I think over time, like you just continue that relationship of like mentor mentee. I think something that can be really valuable is looking for someone who's a few steps ahead of where you're at. Like think about like where do I want to be and how do I want to grow, and looking for people who can fit that role. I think can often lead to like a really productive relationship.
Do you think there is a main difference between a coach and a mentor, or is the same thing?
Yeah, I mean, I think mentors can have a number of roles. I think there's like the 4 C's that you sometimes hear about. Like you can be a coach, you can be a connector, you can be a cheerleader, or a critic. So those are 4 roles that mentors will often take, and it can all be one person, or you can have different mentors for different roles. For example, like having a mentor who's more of a cheerleader, someone who's always cheering you on, like encouraging you to try new things, versus having someone who's a connector as a mentor, someone who can connect you to other people. They might not have all of the answers, but they can connect you to someone who can.
Great. Emerson, in your case, you've been a mentor in a very small organization, but now moving to a bigger one. What is the difference between the mentors in a small organization and a bigger one?
I think, I think at the end of the day, I differentiate formal mentorship and informal mentorship. Formal, for example, is what you get for like Code 2040, right? It's still a small organization, still something that is on paper. You kind of like have a routine that you follow. And when you are, when you're on a smaller setting, like in the case of a startup, those more informal mentorship will happen naturally. Like going to events, meeting people, expanding your network. That's part of building your startup, building your network. So at that point, you will meet a lot of people who want to say, "Hey, I want to do what you're doing. How do I do that, right? How do you get started?" And at that point, you establish a connection, you build a relationship, and some people will actually go and seek out advice, go and seek out and establish that informal mentorship. I want to say that every company, it depends. Sometimes they do have this more of a formal way of getting mentorships, establish mentorship programs, partnering with other organizations to then mentor, say, high school or college students. But you will also find those informal settings, especially for companies that have ERGs. So that allows to have a deeper connection to people based on something. It could be race, it could be interest. Like I'm part of the Latino ERG, for example, at Apple, but I'm also part of the bubble tea club, and so you do find people there, right? And then you meet people, and at that point, you start building those relationships.
You start with the cafecito and then go into mentorship. Yeah. So you mentioned a very interesting point. It's kind of a transition from education, from moving from college into a professional job. You have mentors in both sides. So I want to ask in this case to you, Belen, what is in your experience that change? What that change means from having a mentor in school to having a mentor in a professional environment?
Well, it changes a lot because as in life, like you go through different stages in your life. So in each stage of your life, you have different needs. You have different expectations. So it's the same with a mentorship. It depends on the moment that you are in your professional career, that you're going to have different needs. So that's also going to determine what type of mentorship, what type of mentor you need, and what are your goals and how you're going to work to get those goals. So I think it's key to know, if you want to find a mentor, to know what are your goals, because that's the only way that you're going to find someone to help you. Because I think that sometimes I found maybe someone that they don't really even know what they want. They don't know their interests. So in that case, it's really difficult to know who is a right mentor for you and how to get the best of that relationship with your mentor.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point. Like, how do you identify a mentor? How do you know that that's the right person? And it could be that there is no right person at the right moment, but we all have stories around that. Now I want to move a little more into start with some of those stories. So Alvaro, in your case, can you share with us kind of what was your first approach of mentorship? Who was your first mentor? How do you figure it out that you needed a mentorship? Did somebody told you? Tell us a little bit about it.
Totally. I don't know if I know who my first mentor was, but sort of jumping on Belin's point that at different stages in your life, you sort of have a sense of, yes, I know what my goals are, and yes, sort of I'm going after that thing. And one moment that comes to mind there is very much sort of towards the end of high school. I wanted to get into college, and I really sought after other students from my high school that had gone through the whole like international school application, like how might you go to college in the US, go to college in England, or sort of all that. So I very much, that was a moment where I felt like I had a clear goal, but the path to get there was a little bit more unclear. And I sort of really tried to talk to people who had gone through this unknown thing that I was going to be going through, and get some of their experiences. So sort of specifically got a lot of helpful advice around how do I present myself? How do I like talk about sort of the things that I've done in a sense that could help me achieve my then goal of sort of getting into college.
Great. And after that experience, when was the first time that you identified a person as somebody who was actually giving you that advice?
I had to ask around a little bit. It was sort of difficult to sort of land on just one name to go after and sort of they will be my mentor for how to get into college. I think it was I approached it as, hey, would love to grab a little bit of time and sort of get a sense of what your experience getting into college was. And I think from that initial informal interaction, I got a sense that I sort of connected with some folks and felt that their experience could shed a lot of light into my own experience. So I ended up really sort of forming a great connection with someone who went to university in Scotland to study economics, which is not what I did. I came to university here in the US to study computer science, but there was something about the way they approached kind of that application, the way that they approached how to seek those goals in life that really connected with me and made me feel excited to keep going and sort of keep finding ways to sort of get a little bit of their headspace and advice on what I was looking for.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Sometimes you're looking for something, and then what you find, you discover that it's actually helpful, more helpful than what you think you were looking for. Emerson, do you share any experience like that? How was your first experience at having a mentorship, more in a professional environment?
I think for me, well, the very first one was one that I was not looking for, but I was able to see that it was an important person, and I consider that person a mentor, mainly because I knew that he wanted for me to succeed. As soon as you start feeling that, you're like, oh my God, there is a special connection in a relationship. And for me, it was again fresh out of college, and I built an app. The app took off, and got to a lot of people, and I was like, whoa, this thing is cool. You can actually build something, and it works. But I was at San Francisco, or I graduated from San Francisco State, and unfortunately, entrepreneurship was not a big thing there. Fortunately, for some reason, I got an email from some investor, and his name is Andy Corey. And he was like, yo, your app is so cool, let's chat. And I started chatting with him, and he was like, okay, tell me about your team, your business plan, your long-term vision. And I'm like, what's a business plan? I don't even know about it. I did not even know there were startups for Silicon Valley here. So he was an amazing person and started introducing me to the whole concept of Silicon Valley and the startup and business models, and recommended me books and connected me to people. And from there, I went on to start my first startup and then second one afterwards. So I'm very thankful. And yeah, I don't talk to him anymore, but that was I want to say that was the first person, my first mentor in a professional setting. I did not reach out to that. When I've reached out, I think it's been a little bit more awkward. Like, I know some people say, like, oh, just go to someone and say, like, can you be my mentor? And I've only done that once, and that was with Travis from Uber. He's like, why don't you email me? And we set something up. And I emailed him, and I never heard back from him. So that was kind of it. And but yeah, everything else been more like natural. Like, I meet people. even like advisors that I had for my company then became more than just a once a month 30-minute lunch advisor. It became more like friends, and in they've given me a lot of advice, a lot of guidance. Again, you feel that they want you to succeed, and they're gonna do everything from like even cooking for you, so that you have food to eat when you're broke or something. So you feel that kind of support.
And do you consider that how important has been that for your success in your career?
For me, it's been huge. As I said, like without my first mentor, I probably would have not achieved anything. I don't know. I probably would have just continued doing my app and not even realize that I could have built a startup around it and do something big and move on to other thing. I would have found my passion for education technology in general or iOS. So I think that was very, very important to me. And then, of course, that helped me realize that if I'm getting all that, I also have to be a mentor for other people too. So that's what also what got me to like informally mentor people too, and then formally too through some programs.
Amazing. In your case, Pam, do you get already to that moment that now is my turn to be a mentor? Do you have like kind of an example of that? Are you been there already?
Yeah, I mean, I do agree with everything that's been said so far. Like, mentorship has been huge for me. Like, it's something that's helped me get to where I am today. So I've been really deliberate about trying to do that for other people. There's a lot of different ways that I found mentorship can work. I've been part of Code 2040. I'm currently part of Tectonica and mentoring someone who's transitioning into an engineering role. And I would say for me, like, it's a two-way street, and I feel like I've learned a lot. Like, for example, one of my Code 2040 mentees a few years ago was looking for her first job out of school and didn't really know how to negotiate. At that time, I also was still kind of figuring out negotiation myself, but we had a lot of really great conversations. We were able to help her get multiple job offers, negotiate her offers, and get like an amazing job with a matched salary, which was like a great success story. And that was something that I remember being like, wow, like, both of us kind of like troubleshooted this issue together, and she got like a really successful story out of it. And I learned a lot myself, and I was able to use some of those things myself later on. So I've been doing that for a few years, and it's something that's been really great, and it's different with every single person that I work with.
What was the moment that actually kicked you to start doing that? Like, when do you say, okay, it's time for me to do it? Like, there was a specific event, it was just a serious event, it was, what made you start doing that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's like one specific event, but I think professionally. When I graduated from college, I went to this job that I thought was going to be my dream job. I hated it. I quit 6 months later. I was a PM. I wanted to transition into engineering. I had never done an engineering internship or job before. There was like a really big moment in my life where I felt really lost. And I reached out to someone who was doing education technology, which is what I wanted to get into, and a software engineer. And out of nowhere, I was like, hey, like, I have no idea what I'm doing. Can you help me? And this person, like, I didn't know him very well, but it was a soft connection, sat with me for like hours and like really helped me understand this space and understand what I needed to do to like get the job that I wanted. And after I saw how much that helped me, and after I saw how someone's like really willing to be there for you, I realized that was something that I wanted to do for other people. I wouldn't really be where I am today at all if it hadn't been for that. So I would say that really kind of pushed me to do it the same.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Thank you for sharing. Belen, in your case, you also make the conscious decision to also support a particular population. And you decide to help also women to be part of that mentorship program. How do you came to that decision? What is the story behind that?
So for me, it just came naturally. Like, I just had some junior people in the team, and then later there was also like a junior engineer that she wanted to have a mentor, and it all happened naturally. So I don't really have like a specific moment when I decided to do that. It just came to me, the opportunity, and I felt like, yeah, it was the time. Like, I was ready. I felt like that I could really help them being a mentor. So I just felt prepared to do that.
Amazing. And how was the connection for you? What do you think? Who was helping you? Like there is this particular group, or did you start something by yourself, or you approached an existing group? What was that path?
So I think it's important to know what your. I think it was mentioned earlier, like maybe someone that you really want to get to the position that that person is, like you want to follow that path. So that's a good start to approach that person or to approach someone that you really feel that they have something useful for you. I also think that maybe one key thing that it's not that easy to find someone is because maybe the mentorship can become like a more personal relationship. And I say that because usually your professional goals, like your professional career, is really related to your personal goals. Like, oh, I want to work for a small company, or I want to work for a bigger company because it has these benefits, or I want to move out of the country. Those are really important decisions that are also related to your personal life. So finding a mentor, someone that can really, that you feel that trust and feel comfortable enough with that person to share all your experience and share your goals to achieve that, not only on the professional side, but also in the personal side.
That's kind of where we are going in this conversation. We've been hearing that it's very difficult to find a mentor, and in this case, what I'm hearing is that you find that difficulty yourselves, and that's why you kind of been pushed to do it as well and help other people. Is that a correct assumption? Is that
Yeah, that's why I mentioned that for me, it all happened naturally. Like, you just feel that connection with that person and you feel that they're going to help you. So I think it has to be at least the type of mentorship that I'm used to. Like, it really needs to have like really naturally. I don't have the experience from something else. Like, I don't know, as he mentioned, what happens if you approach someone directly and maybe they don't answer you. I think it's easier to find someone in your own context, in your own company, in your own, someone that it really, you start that relationship like really naturally.
great? It has been the same for any of you. Like very difficult to find at some point a mentor. You were in that situation. How do you overcome that situation about not finding anyone? Does any of you have been in that situation before?
I would say that for me, it's gotten harder the more experience that I've gotten and the more challenges that I think something that we all, being in tech, that I've noticed, or we all know, is that there's not a lot of people with like a background like me or like us in this space. And as you become more and more senior, it becomes harder to find people who can relate to you. So I would say that's been a challenge for me. Like I've been looking for and would love to find someone who's has been like a woman and has been a CTO or might come from like a person of color background. And I feel like it's been really hard for me to find someone who can relate to those experiences and also kind of like be like a mentor for me. And then one of the other challenges is that everyone has so much on their plate and is really busy. So I think being part of a mentorship program or being a mentor or a mentee for someone requires commitment. And I think it's something that has become harder for me over time, is like being able to find people with that time, especially when they already have a lot on their plate. So I would say those are some of the challenges that I've seen.
What do you think that we can do, or in general the industry can do, in order to help us overcome this challenge? Do you have any talks around it? Do you want to call out your employee right now and tell them, give us some time?
So I think one thing that really helps overcome the uncertainty of who can be my mentor, or what kind of mentorship could I benefit from, sort of even not knowing that yourself, is making space for mentorship programs in a professional context where the career growth involves stepping into roles and responsibilities that you weren't a part of before. So for example, one of the responsibilities that I have here at Asana is I run our mentorship program for new tech leads. So these are ICs that individual contributors that start out in a team and eventually sort of step into the responsibility of running, being responsible for leading projects and running sprints for a team. And that's a pretty big shift in sort of what you do. And I remember when I went through that for the first time, there was a lot of, I don't know what I don't know. So there's something that's such a breath of fresh air of like, cool, as an organization, we're going to ask you to step into this responsibility. Here's the support that you have to succeed in this role. We have an established mentorship program, and you're going to get connected to this person who we think can really support you in that trajectory. So finding more opportunities for professional success to manifest more naturally via mentorship, I think is a big opportunity here.
Great. And in the case, as Pam was saying, when you are growing up and then it's becoming more difficult, Emerson, what do you think the industry should do around that? Like, it's more difficult for senior managers, for directors, for VPs, for CTOs to find that mentorship. Well, we have the option of pay one, but it's not always the same.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what I would say is that, of course, a lot of people here are going to grow and become very successful, right? Because of the opportunities and the resources that have been given to you. And we had this chat a couple of years ago with the Latino Startup Alliance and people there that were running their startups, and some of already have sold their startups in the past. And one thing that was very clear during that meeting was, as a community, minorities, the only way we can grow at a very fast rate is if we all decide to give more than 100%. We all have to understand that we have to put in more time, we have to put in more resources to help people. And in this case, for example, being mentors, or provide opportunities, or provide resources. And that's the only way we can help our community grow. So for anyone who makes it into senior leaderships, always remember, sure, you're super busy, sure, you don't have time, but there's always going to be like 1,000 more people just like you who are barely starting and would love to get your help, would love to talk to you, even if it's for 30 minutes, would love to get opportunities from you. So it's going to take a lot of effort, it's going to take a lot of sacrifice, it's going to take a lot of resources, but it's something that needs to happen. And if you just say, well, I'm too busy right now, then it won't happen. So you really have to put in the effort, and it comes from us, because we're the ones who are right now here. Hopefully we're all going to become super successful, so then we have to go and pay it forward.
That's amazing. Yeah. Let's move a little bit into what is this mentorship. We've been hearing how amazing it is and how we can be involved. Let's hear a little bit about the real challenges of being in the program. So when you finally find a mentor, you overcome all these issues about finding a mentor that is close to you or has the time for you. How do you set those expectations with a mentor? How do you establish what is going to be the process that you are going to have? How do you don't even know where you are at some point. How do you set that relationship? How do you specify those goals? Belen, in your case, can you give us a little bit of guidance, like once you find a mentor, what do you need to do in order to establish those goals?
So I think that each mentorship is completely different. It depends a lot on the mentor and the mentee. So the first meetings with your mentor or your mentee, like the purpose of those meetings are to establish your goals, your expectations, and how do you want the mentorship to work? Like how often or what type of mentorship you want, if you want it to be like more informal, more formal, that's completely depends on you. I don't think there's any specific rules, anything like really determined like beforehand. So it's something that you discover as you go, and that it's completely different with each person.
It has been the same case in your experience for you as well?
Me, I would say, yeah, I think there's a lot of dependent, it all depends on who you're working with. I would say like mentorship, it's a relationship, it's a relationship where that you're building over time. So it can take a lot of different forms. You can have a mentor, someone who you meet with like once a year. It could be someone you meet with like once a week for 3 months, and then that's it. So I would say, if you're a mentor or a mentee, if you're a mentee, think about what your goals are. Like, what do I need right now? And like who can help me get there? And then for mentors too, it's like, what can you offer and what kind of guidance can you give? One thing that I think is pretty interesting, depending on your relationship and who you're mentoring, like it might look different. Like if you're mentoring someone who's, let's say, like a few, like 10, if you have like a bigger gap in terms of your experience, like the kind of advice that you're going to give is probably going to be a lot more high level. And a lot of times you don't need to meet with those people too often, because you're getting more high level guidance, and it's usually more specific. Versus if you're like working towards like a very specific goal, you might have like more checkpoints and more regular check-ins with someone who's a little bit closer to where you want to be. Like, for example, when I first transitioned into an engineering manager role, I messaged and met with all of the managers' friends that I had. I sat down with them, I met with them, and then I decided who seemed like a good mentor for me, and I decided to meet with that person more often.
Alvaro, in your case, when you talk about this program of mentorship that is a little more closer, is part of the same company, what do you tell to the mentees? Do you solve the problems for them? Is the mentor somebody who is going to solve all your questions? What is the format that you regularly follow there?
Yeah, I think the format that I've had most success in terms of learning as a mentee, but also feeling like I was able to kind of provide lots of good value as a mentor, is one where the mentor is sort of helping set up structure around you. So things like if you're working on a project, giving you some advice around who are your stakeholders or what kinds of things should you be thinking about, but leaving space for you to fill in the blanks and really put your own spin and ideas into how to solve the problem. So what I've found from great mentors is really sort of that like GPS navigation, sort of here's kind of the lay of the land, and stepping back and leaving space for you to really step up and kind of learn there is a style and methodology that I'm a big believer in.
In the case of non very technical, like a little more navigation guidance, what is there any recommendations around that setup? Like in the case when you don't have meetings very often, you ask like questions every once a while, every month, every 2 months. How do you know what is the right thing to ask? How do you know from all your different questions, from all your different anxieties, how do you prioritize them to the point of pick some that you are going to ask to that mentor? Does anyone have an example?
I mean, I could say that from a mentor perspective, I try to be a little bit proactive and anticipate any issues or problems that they might encounter in the next couple of months or in the next couple of years, and I bring those up. For someone who's barely starting college, I'm like, you will now, have to get an internship at some point, right? When you start looking for that, hit me up, and then, so that they're aware of those things, right? They don't hesitate, they don't think about it twice. They know they have to reach out at that moment in time, and then of course what I tell them all the time is like, I won't ever tell you what to do. I probably just share my experiences, but I'm gonna be very open about why I made those decisions. So don't ever follow what I say blindly. Really understand why I did that, and just don't follow it blindly, because we're different people, different experiences at different stages.
That's great, and that leads me to another question of like, what happens if you find out that mentor is not the right one, that right now, this time, is probably not the best one. Did that happen to you? Like, what do you do in that situation? Do you even realize about that?
I mean, I think I would say it kind of depends on how you started the relationship. I don't like to commit to anything until after I get a sense of who the person is. I would say usually the first meeting or the first time I'm meeting someone who could be a potential mentor or mentee is more about getting to know each other and understanding whether or not we're a good fit for each other. I've definitely met with people who are I thought would be my mentors, and I just didn't email them again. And I think it was because a lot of those times, I think it was kind of known from both of our ends, like, hey, let's meet each other, let's see if this works, and then if it does, as a mentee, I was gonna reach out again, and I just didn't. So I would say that happens more often than not, where you meet and start a relationship with someone and you're like, oh, maybe it's not going to work. And I feel like just treat it like any, well, I don't want to say friendships, but like acquaintances, like you meet someone and then sometimes it'll work and you'll like meet with them a lot. And then, you both got a lot out of that relationship, and then you're like done, and then you move on. Because I think a lot of times it depends on both of you, like where you're at in your life, what you need, and whether or not that's something that person can do for you and you can do for them.
Great. And just to continue with that topic, like in your experience, can you share a little bit of what has been the most challenging part about being a mentor or a mentee at some point? Let's start with Pam, and then we go one by one. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things, as I've done this more and more times, there's been a lot of learning moments. One of them for me is that I'm not a great phone mentor. Like, I need to meet someone in person or over video chat. I think that's been one of the struggles that I've had before. When I try to be a mentor over the phone, it was hard for me to get to know the person, and a lot of times we were trying to be mentors, or we were trying to talk to each other when we were like commuting or walking, and it really never worked. So I would say that was one challenge that I faced. Another one, sometimes with a lot of programs, sometimes people are in them without necessarily being ready for them. I know I was part of a program once, and my mentee would show up like 15 to 30 minutes late, like every time we were meeting, and a few times they didn't show up at all. And I would say that was something where like we couldn't build a baseline. I wasn't able to help that person with their goals. And then from my perspective, like I was trying to invest a lot of time into this. So I would say that those have been some of the challenges where both as a mentor and as a mentee, I think it's really important to be respectful of each other's time. And I think the other thing is like really important for everyone to be present, like and fully present and there when you're having these discussions and conversations.
What about you, Emerson? Certain like big challenge that you found?
Yeah, you know how I said a couple minutes ago that you always have to like give more. You have to give more than 100%. That's true, but up to a point. Because I think one thing that I've learned is that you cannot always help everyone, because you probably gonna end up killing yourself if you try to help everyone, mentor everyone, and give opportunities to everyone. So that's something. It's been a problem for me because I mean, from an education background, you always try to empower people and give them opportunities, and yeah, that has happened to me. There was a point where I was like completely and absolutely broke, and I was ready to shut down my startup, and then someone approached me. Is like, you know, like I would really wanna like work for you and give me the opportunity. Like I don't get a job anywhere else. And I'm like, I should really help this person. She's been, you know, really cool. And then I realized I was just gonna do that just to help her, and I was like, oh, I'm just gonna kill myself if I continue doing this. So something to watch out as a mentor too. You know, you do have a life. Give more than 100%, but not 200%. That's a little too much at that point.
Yeah. And what about you, Emily?
So to me, the main challenge is when it happens to me, like when the other person, in this case the mentee, when they don't really know what they want to do, like they don't know the expectations, they have no goals, like they're just there, like, okay, you're my mentor, you should tell me what to do, but I don't know how to help that person if they don't give me something, like at least one goal, one interest, something. In that case, I think that that person maybe is not prepared for a mentorship. So both parts, mentor and mentee, they really need to be prepared and be like with the a clear mind that they really are going to work hard to achieve that. Because it also happens to me that happened a while ago that I was trying to give someone advice, trying to push them forward, but it seemed like like that person didn't really care, like they weren't even trying. So as he said, in the end, it's like it's a waste of time for both of us.
Okay, so before we move on, we're very close to Q&A. I just want to close with one final question. I'm going to start with you, Alvaro. What do you want to see different across the industry, across engineering specific, about mentorship?
I think I would like to see mentorship be more recognized as a way to further your career, like you mentoring others as a vector for you to have great impact in the organization that you work at. So there are many companies like Asana whose like career success guides, career growth guides have sort of a category or a competency for mentoring and sort of leveling up the people around you. And I would like to see sort of more and more of that, because that is mentorship is such a great avenue for you to have like a multiplier effect on the people around you, and I also want there to be something in it for yourself as the mentor.
Great. So we are at time. Those are magnificent stories. Again, thank you very much for sharing with us. Thank you for the space. We are going to move into Q&A. If you have not, you can log in. You can actually go to Slido and then share some questions with us. I'm going to try to read some of the top ones. Thank you. Okay, we have a few ones here. What type of questions should you ask your mentors? Somebody wants to start with this one?
Sure. I think riffing off of what Emerson was saying earlier, as a mentor, it's important to say sort of, here's how I would think about this, or here's my experience, but don't follow exactly what I say. So it's important for you as the mentee to ask questions to your mentor around, how would you approach this? How would you think about this? I'm kind of thinking about these possible options. What's kind of your take in it? At the end of the day, you sort of really want to get more than just sort of a yes/no answer or someone telling you exactly what to do. You want to sort of understand what the reasoning and thinking behind your mentor's train of thought is, so that the next time that a new situation comes your way, you're equipped with some sort of reasoning or intuition around what to select. So those are the kinds of questions that I think I valued most from my own mentors.
Great. How do you build a mentor relationship? Oh, sorry, how do you build a mentorship relationship from an event like this?
I mean, an event like this is just starting the connection, I would say, and then, trying to realize, if you see someone, you're like, oh, that person, like, they have done the exact same career, or they are where I want to be, right? Focus on that specific thing, and then try to follow up with with an email. I think that's the easiest one, and then right here you won't find a mentor. I guess you will start, right. You will meet them here, but it will not be like right away. It's going to be your mentor by the end of the evening.
Thank you. I'm going to try to skip a little one of what I think has been already answered in the panel. So let's skip into this one. Going to mark this one. How can I be the best mentee ever? What are the attributes you look for in someone that you want to take as a mentee?
I can take that one. As I said, like, it's important to know what you want to achieve. Even if you are, it doesn't need to be like really, really specific, but at least something in mind. And I would add that one tool that can be useful is prepare before you meet with your mentor. Just don't go there and see what happens. You can prepare for that. For example, during the week, if you are at work and something happens, and there's a situation that you're not sure how to handle, or in that moment, write it down. Like write the details down. So that way, when you meet with your mentor, you are prepared and you have all the details, and you can actually get better advice and better help from that situation.
Thank you. Let's go to this one. Is your manager your mentor? And if so, how do you approach that relationship?
Yeah, I can answer that. I would say like managers can be a type of mentor. I think it depends on what kind of relationship you have with your manager. One of the things that it's always important to keep in mind is that your manager is evaluating you. So whenever you do come to your manager for questions, I think they're there to help you grow, and they're there to help you with your professional growth. So in theory, yes, I think they are great mentors, but it might be good to rely on other people as well, so that you can go to someone if you're having questions around, even talking about like your relationship with your manager and how to improve that. That's a conversation you probably wouldn't want to have with your manager.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I was thinking about that too, because you also need someone else so you can talk about your manager and your team. In the end, your manager is like he's going to be evaluating you. That person also knows the rest of your teammates. So it's always good to have someone that is completely out of the context of your own team and that can give you like a different perspective.
Thank you. I'm a self-taught engineer. Should I try to find a mentor that went to college, or should I look for people who have been through my same experience?
So I've mentored a few people who have transitioned into an engineering career, and I found that fairly valuable for the mentees from what I've heard. But I think it's helpful to have someone else who's gone through that experience as well, because I think there's a lot of challenges that someone with a computer science degree might not understand. For example, like my sister, for example, she transitioned into an engineering role, and I struggled to help her when she was trying to sell herself and trying to figure out how to talk about her experience, because that was something I hadn't gone through. So I would say it is helpful to have someone with a similar background too.
Great. So I think most of these we have answered, or kind of answered somehow. What is the worst mentee you ever met? So I'm going to jump and answer that. The worst mentee that I ever met is the one who didn't know that he wanted to be a mentee. The worst mentee that I met is the one who was a struggle, the one who was offered help, and then on top of that decide that mentorship was a waste of time. So that's in my case. I don't know. Somebody wants to add something?
I would say I've been the worst mentee myself. Like I think sometimes when I was younger, I would go to mentors and tell them exactly what I thought I needed to do, and never ask for any questions or help, and didn't take any of their advice. So I would say it's a learning experience and something that we all, it's a learning process, I think, for all of us.
Let's go to a little more specific one. How do you set concrete goal? I want to be better at React, and I can seem to make create things on my own.
Or maybe in that case, you need maybe not necessarily a mentor. Like you need to work a lot and be patient. So a mentor can help you and can give you some guidance, but in the end, if you want to achieve the goal, you need to work by yourself. So it's only you, the one that is going to actually make that work.
What are your thoughts on having mentors that are Latinx engineer leaders versus non-Latinx engineer leaders?
I think you need both, and I mean, as she said, it's really about some will have the connection, will understand your path, and will provide guidance around that, and there will be other people who don't have that but have something else that you're also looking for, and will provide you guidance in that way. So, I think a variety of mentors, diversity, it's always great.
How do you navigate technical versus non-technical mentorship?
I don't necessarily think of it as sort of two discrete, separate categories. I think in a professional context, there's a lot of figuring out how to advocate for decisions that you believe in, even in the most technical of contexts. So I always try to kind of pull back from a discussion about code to figure out how one can most productively drive a discussion, or sort of bring back some of sort of the non-technical elements and project them over onto my experiences in a technical context.
Does any of you have any advice for people trying to get into engineering for the first time, fresh boot camp grads?
I mean, I would say it's definitely a path. I would say find a mentor, find someone who can help you. I think it's probably a longer discussion. I would say, yes, I think number one, finding a community and finding other people who are going through a similar experience can be really helpful. Career transitions can be really hard and can feel really isolating. So I would say having a group around you is like one of the first things to do. There's a lot of great online resources. So looking at other people's stories, looking at what other people have done, I would say is also really helpful.
What resources have you used or read that have helped you become a better leader or better mentor? One that I can suggest is join the Techqueria Slack and ask questions there. Any other recommendation?
I read last year the $1 Trillion Coach, which is not necessarily mentorship, but it's leadership and coaching. Really good book, available in Apple Books. Recommend it.
I mean, I'll put in a shout out to Radical Candor. I think that's a book that really talks about how to give productive and useful feedback. And then there's a video that I really like called How to Give and Ask for Technical Help, Eurobrain's API. It's like a 20-minute video, and it has really clear and concise steps on helping people give and ask for help, especially technical help.
So let's finish with this one. What's your guiding philosophy when it comes to being a great mentee?
Well, to me, my philosophy is trying to have a mentorship that is like really familiar, like really informal. Like we are going to be talking about career goals and work, but I don't want it to feel like you're working at that moment. So it has to be like something more natural, something more friendly. That's the type of mentorship that I really enjoy, and it's like my philosophy for mentorships.
Anybody else?
Similar to what you were saying, Javier, that I have found that mentorship has been all around me, even in moments where I haven't realized. So sort of taking, noticing that sort of some of my informal relationships with coworkers in my team or in other team really are a source of mentorship, and seeing that as a way of, these are some avenues for me to pursue and for me to learn. It just has been sort of amazing and has helped me overcome that sort of like, where can I find a mentor? Like, I don't know sort of who to look out to, but just sort of really thinking about what context you're in your team, in your job, or in sort of the activities that you're in, and figuring out where you can sort of get the mentorship and support you need from all around you is I think, a way to sort of become kind of that great mentee.
Amazing. So to finalize, let's give a round of applause to our beautiful panel today. again, thank you, Asana. Thank you for the space. Thank you, Techqueria, for organize the event. Again, all the details are going to be in the page. You can join the Slack. And to finalize, please give us some feedback about this event. The details are in the screen. So please share some of your feedback. Have some time to talk with the panel. Have some time to make a connection with the group, with the people around here. Probably find your next mentor. Thank you very much.